What's up, everybody? So today we're talking about something I think pretty straightforward. Yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of Tenet, which is crazy because if that movie was a politician, that means homie could have been president for one term, which I think is kind of crazy. Or, put another way, fourth of the way to starting to drive and getting a permit and everything. So kind of wild it's been so long. When that movie came out, I know a lot of you youngsters out there probably don't remember where you were, what you were doing. You should, but you probably don't, and that's okay. Can't fault you for being imperfect. But when that movie came out, COVID was going on. They had a release date for that movie. Then COVID happened, and they pushed it back. They delayed it indefinitely, and then it got moved, and then another trailer drops for it, and it's a whole big brouhaha, big deal, because, it's only in theaters. And so people, at that time, in that year, didn't really know how that was going to work. But the movie did come out, and it was in theaters, and, of course, you're probably wondering, Fluffy, why you're talking about this. We know you love Christopher Nolan, we know you're, like, his #1 fan and all that. We know you're his protege, and if anything happened, you could step up and take the mantle, and that's all true. But at the end of the day, you have to consider that I was there. When that movie was in theaters, I was in theaters, and I saw it, I want to say 3 times. Yeah, 3 times in theaters during its initial run, and then I've seen it twice in theaters since. So I guess you could consider me a fan. I've read the screenplay. I went deep with it, Chris came out with this movie and he said, hey, to all the fans out there, if you want to go deep, you can go deep. And I took that as a challenge, and I did, in fact, go deep. So, what I figured I'd be doing for today's video, we all know the weekly uploads are rolling out. And so I'm thinking, since this is all so timely and beautiful and fresh, we're going to have, I'm playing this game. This one's called Tenet Tower Defense, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about the movie and, lessons from it and what's aged well, what hasn't. The answer is everything's aged well. It's a great movie. The editing in that is truly some of the most unique works of art I've ever seen. But here's the big thing. I have one complaint about the movie, and it comes from my reading of the script. So I read the script, as we all know, and in reading the script, I realized there's mostly kind of a one-for-one thing going, where a lot of what's in the script just was directly translated to the movie. But there is one particular instance that I often think of a line that was in the screenplay that then ultimately wasn't in the film itself. It was cut. Or should I say it was cut short, because the line, at least the start of the line, is in the movie. But the full thing's not there. So, breaking it down a little further, for those of you who have not seen the movie, pause this video, go see it. This is a very important discussion, but I'm just gonna flat out spoil a big point near the end of the film. I'm not gonna spoil everything, so I guess if you want to keep watching, you still can. It's gonna be fine. But the scene that I will be referring to, here we go, last chance. Now I'm gonna start talking about specifics. If you haven't seen it, you might be a little lost. Okay, Tenet, 2020, director Christopher Nolan. There's a scene in the last third of the film as they're starting to go backwards and they're headed to Oslo for the second time to go back through that turnstile, just from the other point of view, which is an awesome scene in itself. Love it. And while they're going backwards in the shipping container, they are explaining to Kat, this woman who's kind of going in and out of consciousness, how it all works and what the whole shtick is. So they're going backwards, and as Neil, the character played by Robert Pattinson, is talking to Elizabeth Becky's character as she wakes up, he's explaining the whole concept of inversion and how it works. And he starts by saying, every law of physics, but he's British, so he says, every law of physics. And it starts to be this whole big, you know, explanation, and then it just cuts to a different scene. But for the audience members out there who really don't understand exactly how this thing works, and of course you could rebuttal this by saying the point of the film isn't to understand it. Okay, but if you wanted to understand it, or at least understand it a little more, here's the rest of the explanation that's in the line that then was cut short in the screenplay. The screenplay, and I don't even have this in front of me right now, I'm just remembering this because it left a profound impact on me. So, gonna have to take my word for it, but yeah, I'm playing Tenet Tower Defense, and that's it. But the line is, every law of physics runs both forwards and backwards except for one, entropy. And so, that's, you know, add an ellipse, move on, ... That's the end of his little explanation, but it's enough. You know, it's just a little bit more. But it's a little bit more in such a way that I think the film would have benefited from having it in. Because again, I know Christopher Nolan has said several times the point of the film isn't to try to understand it and go deep with it and all that. But what I love about his films, and what I love about that film in particular, aside from just the vibe of it, because the vibe and the feel are just immense, they're second to none. That movie means so much to me because I can still go back and see it today after seeing it however many times, and after reading the screenplay and doing a full analysis of the screenplay, and I can still be like, hell yeah, you know, like that opening sequence with the opera as they're rushing in, that beautiful moment where we see the protagonist turn and start running before we know who the protagonist is. Hits so hard, dopamine straight to my brain. That shot of as we're going into the Freeport, and as we're starting to investigate with Robert Pattinson's Neil, and we see just his back as the music hits. It's such a vibe. It's such a vibey movie. The whole car chase stuff, such a vibe. Love it. That whole end sequence with the forward and backwards armies, you know, at once, converging on a certain city. I won't say what, you know, but those who know. It's a great movie in its own right, and I know the point isn't to be understood and to go deep, but for those of us who really want to go deep with it, you know, and can maybe even find more enjoyment in going deep in it, I just love that that option is still there. You know, I love that there's this sense of mystery through the whole thing. I mean, the name Tenet in itself refers, of course, to the Tenet Square, which is this whole big historical question, really, of what did this mean? And it's really cool upon learning what the Tenet Square is, if for those who didn't know before, and going and watching the film and just kind of seeing its different words show up in different ways. So we have Tenet, obviously, which is the title. That one's obviously going to be there. Sator, you know, is the villain. Rotas is the name of the company that has the shipping container that we're in as we go backwards. It's so cool. I love it. You know, it's something special, and that's what I know. So, in conclusion, 4 years strong. It's a great movie. Glad it's still going on. We are very excited for the sequel, of course. Tenet coming out soon. I'm actually hearing that it's going to be a multiverse film. So, very excited to see where that one goes. Maybe we'll even get Denzel, you know, being like an older version of the protagonist. Maybe we'll even call him the antagonist, you know. So, we're moving in a way where films like that used to just be, you know, the figment of imagination for the dreamers out there who really want it, they can be true. You know, we don't even have to spend a ton of money on it. We can just throw throw John David Washington in the middle of the volume, you know, like how they shot The Mandalorian, and just have him do his thing. Very practical, you know, very real, very on set. But that's very excited for Tenet. And then, you know, maybe we'll round out the trilogy with 33, you know, but like the threes are going to be like inverted from each other. So it kind of looks like an 8, but like it's not. So Love Tenet. Yeah, that was a good one. I guess Oppenheimer was pretty good too. Hey guys, just a quick update here. You know, I'm playing this game, playing Tenet Tower Defense, it's fun and everything. But then it's telling me messages like, oh, this game's fun. Life is fun too. Touch grass, go outside and do something else sometime. Life's not awesome too. Life is really hard, you know, and I just wanted to say that because I think there's not enough representation of that sentiment these days. But you know, I applied for a job at Snooze and I was rejected. So it's like, you know, I wouldn't say things are going great, me personally. And I'm someone who's optimistic, you know, it's just like, it's a time, man. So, yeah, I'll win this game and everything, and it'll feel so good, and wow, dopamine rush. But when this is over, I just go back to my life, and I just do my thing. Life is awesome too. Get real, you know. Yeah, no.